All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to day number 2 of our new faculty research orientation. Thank you all for joining us today. This is one of our first in-person events, probably in a couple years for many of us, so welcome. My name is Laura Kroger. I'm the Research Operations Program Manager in the Office of Research and Innovation. On behalf of all of us in the Office of Research and Innovation, I want to welcome you to Orientation Week and our Faculty Connections panel. During this program, our panel of experts hope to share details regarding resources available to NC State faculty and where you might be able to find those, as well as provide you information on who you can contact to help you navigate your world of research and your path to tenure. To get things started, we're going to ask each of our panelists to do a quick introduction of who they are and maybe some of the resources and units that they represent. I'm going to start first thing on my right. I have Dr. John Horowitz from the Office of Research Development, and I'll advance your slide, John, and let you say a couple words.
All right, thank you. I'm John Horowitz. I'm a professor of cancer biology at the vet school, but in reality, my day job is I serve as Associate Vice Chancellor for Research in the Office of Research and Innovation, and I lead the Research Development Office. You probably heard from Dr. Volk, the Vice Chancellor, yesterday, and Emily Callahan, who works in my office, about what RDO does. And so what I just wanted to do is to give you a very, very, very brief reminder of some key resources that are available to you from my office that you really should be aware of. So if you log on to the RDO webpage, you'll see something that looks like what's behind me. And you'll see there are headings at the top there, and a key one for all faculty, but especially young faculty, is the funding heading. And if you click on that funding heading and scroll a little bit down to the next slide, what you'll see are lots of headings which are shown on the slide behind me. And to the right, there's this gray box that says Funding Communications. And this is really key. If you're not already signed up for these funding communications, you really should. Because at least twice a month, we send out, I should say Emily Callahan in my office sends out, a very comprehensive listing of opportunities, federal, state, foundations, you name it, are listed there. And it's really a great resource to find out where the money is coming from and how you might be able to access it. So please do sign up. You'll see all these other headings that are there, and if you, just as one example, if you hit the internal funding heading, and we'll look at that on the next slide, you'll see all of the internal opportunities that come from our office, that is the Office of Research and Innovation. And just as a note, the top 4 are open right now, and so you should take a look at them if you're interested in seeing what's available to you in terms of funding opportunities. And note that blue box on the right. That's key as well, because there's a nifty little brochure that Emily and I put together which lists and talks about details not only of all the internal funding programs that come from ORI, but also programs from other units on campus at NC State, such as centers and institutes. And so if you peruse that nifty brochure, you should get a real good feel for the kinds of dollars that are available on campus from those units and how you might be able to access them. I'll stop there.
Thank you, John. Next up, I want to introduce Catherine Showalter. She's from our Office of Undergraduate Research.
Hi, I'm Dr. Catherine Showalter. I am the Associate Director of the Office of Undergraduate Research. Our office is really here to help support undergraduate researchers and help you support those undergraduate researchers. So we have a variety of ways that we connect students with opportunities for undergraduate research, whether that's something that they are paid for, like a research assistant, or volunteering. We can help them connect with mentors, figure out who's out there, look through our database, figure out, for instance, volunteer research assistant, REU's research experiences for undergraduates over the summer. Also, we provide funding for projects, for independent projects, whether they are working on their own deliverable or whether they are working underneath you on a project and they're submitting proposals for those. We work with research assistants through federal work study, so for those who require a little bit of financial aid, as well as travel awards to go present at various conferences. We connect mentors and mentees. We connect with helping with dissemination, so presentations, whether that's at one of our events here at NC State or through something else. We take students to things like the National Conference on Undergraduate Research, to the ACC conference. We also help with finding connections for publications. We work with professional development, so really helping debunk what research looks like for undergraduate researchers, since a lot of them just have no idea what that process might be. And we're also here to help mentor, so not just supporting students, but really helping you. So if you haven't mentored an undergraduate researcher before, we're here to help you figure out how to do that, the ups, the downs, how to find resources. So our office is really here as that resource support center.
Thank you. Next, I want to introduce Dr. Phil Westmoreland. Phil is here as a representative from one of our research advisory groups, and he is the chair-elect of our Research Leadership Academy, which is one of the faculty groups. But Phil, I'll turn to you maybe to speak a little bit more to those groups and who is being represented.
Sure, I'm a professor in chemical and biomolecular engineering with experience that includes 3 years working at NSF as a program officer. Some people like to be beat up by slides, some people don't. If you don't want to be beaten up, just look at the big letters, because there are 4 research advisory groups I want to refer to. Laura had mentioned the Research Leadership Academy. The Research Operations Council, Research Support Council, and University Research Committee are also important groups. You have different relationships with them. The Research Leadership Academy operates activities, for example, the annual University Research Symposium, different lunch and learn events to find out about different topics. Events, we partnered, I guess it was the Research Operations Council that initiated the Research Equity Symposium last month, and we partnered in putting that on. So the Research Leadership Academy, because part of its role is mentoring, is probably the one you would have the most immediate direct contact with, the opportunities for. The other organizations you may well be a part of over time. You'll certainly be influenced by the decisions that happen there, with the Research Operations Council, again, looking at the whole range of different activities going on in research and really being made up of the Vice Chancellor for Research, the Associate Deans for Research. Then the Research Support Council, really all the entities that are helping you get your research done. So you will have lots of interactions with Sparks, grants and contracts in your college research offices. And then finally, the University Research Community is the sort of Congress of the faculty for research, communicating, developing ideas, developing policies. Again, each college has a representative on the University Research Committee. You may well be serving in that role, or in your college's research committee as well.
Thank you, Phil. Next on our panel is Vicki Arp. Vicki is in our Research Office of Communications, but she's going to talk a little bit about just general university communications as well. So Vicki, I'll turn to you.
Hi there, I'm Vicki Arp. I'm the Director of Marketing for Research and Innovation here at NC State. And I lead a communications team with positions that I share across the research enterprise, but also with university communications and central communications to ensure all of us are working together to help define and promote the research brand of NC State University. Our team has a marketing writer, a web content manager, a web developer, an internal communications writer, and a graphic designer in addition to myself. So what we do is we work to help promote our research by developing websites, ads, digital assets, stories, videos, and promotional marketing materials that help tell the story of research here. We connect with the rest of campus by leading or being a part of several committees, and so I'm going to talk about these committees. That's a little boring, but that's how we get work moving forward and make sure that we're getting the word out between the vast communications network here on campus. And those committees are the Centennial Campus Marketing Committee, the Partnership Marketing Committee, the Research and Innovations Communications Committee, and the Lead Communicators Committee, and I also sit on the Executive Brand Committee. So we connect, we help I put some URLs here for you to find some assets that you can use to help talk about your own research and also to help understand how we generally define the brand of the university at NC State. So that's brand.ncsu.edu. You can find some photos that we've already taken to use on slides and in your stories at ncstatephotos.photoshelter.com. We also have 2 outlets that we use to speak to our publics. The research magazine of NC State is results.ncsu.edu, and that's primarily for an external audience. And then our research website, research.ncsu.edu, we publish articles there that are speaking more to an internal audience here at NC State. So that's what we do.
Thanks, Vicki. Next, I'm going to turn to Wade Fulgham. Wade is representing our Office of Research Commercialization.
Good morning, everybody. Wade Fulgham. Let's see, I've been here at NC State 15 years as of next month, so I guess you could say I'm institutionalized to some degree. I lead a team of about 20 people. Our name is Research Commercialization. It's pretty straightforward what we do. We commercialize research. We have 2 main functions. One is we're the office that's responsible for all compliance. So anyone that accepts money to do research at NC State, there's some sort of contractual obligations that our office will make sure that that we're above board on. Other than compliance, the fun part of our job is we commercialize research. So we create startup companies, we do licenses with companies, we find creative partnerships. So just a few programs that you might be interested in that our office runs. We do run the Chancellor's Innovation Fund. We're on our 11th year of that program. This is a chance for faculty members to compete for a $50,000 award to basically take your research one more step beyond, where hopefully you can have an inflection point that'll lead to a startup company or a license. Let's see, we also manage the Wolfpack Investor Network. This is a group of angel alumni investors that was formed in 2016. And they're actively investing in NC State companies. I'm happy to say that we just had one of our biggest deals in 3 years this month, and this group of people deployed about $500,000 across 2 different companies from NC State. We're at a cumulative of $17 million in the last 5 years. Our office also I serve as the PI for the National Science Foundation I-Corps. This is a 5-year program. We just got this award in January. With 9 other universities in the Mid-Atlantic, and this is a training program to help train researchers to think in a commercial mindset. Then a few other programs that you can find on our website. We have buckets of money. One's called the Doherty Endowment. We have another bucket of money called the SBIR Sparkplug program. This is where our office will actually pay for professional grant writing services for researchers who are looking to commercialize their research through SBIRs, STTRs. Other than that, we have several relationships with College of Management, Poole College of Management, and the Entrepreneurship Initiative, but I will stop there.
Great, thanks, Wade. Last but not least, we have Kim Duckett. Kim is here representing the NC State University Libraries.
Hi, I'm Kim Duckett, Head of Research Engagement at the NC State Libraries, and I'm happy to be here with you. I'm not alone, because I'm really just representing the libraries holistically, so I'm really happy to have some of my colleagues here as well who have different areas of expertise. You can raise your hand as I say your name. Hillary Davis, Head of Collections and Research Strategy. Bertha Chang, Associate Head of Collections and Research Strategy. Maura Downey, who's a research facilitator with the Research Facilitation Service. And Mara Blake, who's Head of Data and Visualization Services. So I hope you'll talk with them as well. So there's so many ways the library can support research, and I'm just going to hit a few highlights. Of course, we have really rich and deep collections. We have 128,000 journals, 5.3 million books, and over 635 databases with additional access to collections in the region. We offer training and support and consultation related to all areas of the research lifecycle, from managing citation, measuring research impact, and managing your research data. We provide support for finding data and conducting text mining and data visualization. We can assist you in helping with understanding your author's rights when you're publishing and when you're producing research and data. And we work with partners on campus to help with grants and funding activities such as public access compliance, writing data management plans, and creating broader impact statements. And also, just to highlight again, our data and visualization service unit can assist with a wide range of data lifecycle activities, from data collection, discovery, access, evaluation, cleaning, modeling, analysis, visualization, metadata creation. We also have some amazing spaces. I hope you've been into the physical space of our library. We have some of the most cutting-edge spaces in the country of academic libraries, including specialized spaces for virtual reality and gaming, visualization spaces, maker spaces, and we also have 2 faculty commons that are specialized spaces that are faculty access only, one at DH Hill Library and one at the James B. Hunt Library. And then there's 2 areas I just want to touch on very briefly that are really new and important areas for us. One is the Research Facilitation Service. This is a joint endeavor on the part of the University Library's Office of Information Technology and the Office of Research and Innovation. It's very exciting. Maura can speak to that. And really the gist of that is to understand that we understand that technological infrastructure that's required to conduct successful, efficient, secure, and productive research has become really complex. And this group can help you, and they can provide a variety of different kinds of expertise to help you navigate different options and assess a broad range of possible research solutions. Right now it's in pilot phase, but it will be over the next year or so moving broader. Right now the pilot is just with the College of Sciences, but definitely talk to Maura. And then also we have a lot of emphasis right now on public science and public scholarship. So the libraries can help you in many different ways in terms of getting your research out there, from hosting events, showcasing your work in the library, to providing resources to help with writing broader impact statements, consulting on strategies for open publishing and openly sharing data. And we also have a lot of extensive digital media support in the library. So for example, if you wanted to do podcasting. In terms of getting help, I've linked to 2 different URLs there. The second one is to look up subject librarians. Those are disciplinary connectors that help you connect between the libraries and your academic department. So you may hear from a librarian, or if you want to reach out to someone, you can look up your department using the link there.
Great. Thank you. So we're going to get into a couple of questions, and we do have some that are pre-submitted, but I do want to note, if any of you in the audience have a question at any time, please raise your hand. We're here for you to answer your questions, so if there's anything, we will either be able to answer here with our panelists, or we might be able to give you a contact of who to reach out to in the future. So please, at any time, raise your hand, interrupt me. This is great. I guess I'll start, but does anybody have an initial question before I turn over to some pre-submitted? All right. Okay, I'll wait you out the next time. Be thinking about questions. Okay, so I actually might start with John. So something that you might be able to give this group a little update on is your core facilities, which is under the Research Development Office. Can you give us maybe just a little background or overview of what is currently there, but maybe also talk about the strategies of what some strategies your office uses to bring in new instruments, and then kind of a final piece is how can our faculty stay up to date with the resources and services available to them in these facilities?
Okay, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Let's see, can we go back to my slides?
Yep.
And let's see. So the first slide should be one that you've seen previously, and it's really just the RDO webpage. But you'll notice at the top there's a heading that says Core Facilities. And if you go to the next slide, that'll take you to the Core Facilities website, where 6 university-level shared core research facilities are discussed in detail. There are also links to each one of them, which go into depth when it comes to the kinds of instrumentation and services that they can provide. So that's how you find out probably the richest repository of information about each one of them. In terms of how do we keep them cutting edge, how do we bring in instrumentation that supports faculty research? There's really 5 methods that I can talk about very briefly. The first is the university provides some money directly to acquire instruments for the course. The second is we have a very active program where we write grants to the federal government. There are at least 3 agencies that have equipment grant programs: the Department of Defense, the NIH, and the National Science Foundation. And so faculty send proposals, they get together, they figure out what they're interested in, they write proposals, they send them in, and then we keep our fingers crossed. It turns out we've been quite successful in garnering equipment from federal agencies. Just as one example, from the NSF MRI program, we've won an instrument about 13 times out of the last 15 years, something like that. So that's the second method. The third method that we use springs from efforts that the university makes to recruit faculty to the university or keep them here. So when a faculty member comes to NC State, they often have equipment needs, and at that point in time, we usually try to convince them that that equipment should be put into a core facility so that others can use it as well. So that's another way of keeping instrumentation fresh within the core facilities. The fourth method is philanthropic gifts. In the last couple of years, we've actually gotten a couple of instruments due to some very nice donations from some friends of the university. In that regard, we've picked up an electron microscope as well as a confocal microscope as well. So that's another method. And then the final method is we collaborate with instrument vendors. Oftentimes, they're willing to provide us with instrumentation to be put into a core facility for free or for a very low price for a limited period of time. And so again, that gives people at NC State an opportunity, hands-on opportunity, to try the latest and greatest equipment. And what was the final piece of your question?
How can our faculty stay updated on either new services or resources available to them?
Good question. I think the best way is to keep in touch with the directors and their staff within the core facilities. They have their fingers on the pulse of what's going on in the core at any given time, and that's really the best way to figure out what's coming in the pipeline in terms of new instrumentation or what new services they're planning on developing.
Great, thank you. Vicki, I think I have a question I'm going to turn to you on real quick. So we have faculty doing some great research here at the university. Can you give us a little information on how these faculty can then get the word out about their research efforts?
Sure. So every college has a lead communicator, and that's a great place to start. And if you need to know who that is, you can find them in the directory, but you can also reach out directly to me. I'm happy to connect you with that person. But those directors of communications or marketing within those colleges, they do similar work to what I do, but their primary focus isn't just research, it's more broad. University Communications also has a great team of writers, and they work on a beat system. So there's a writer assigned to the college that you work for. Their focus is primarily on media outreach, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But my team is also available to help with some of that work. And I talked about the two ways within the Office of Research and Innovation that we publicize research for an internal or external audience. So we can talk to you and see if it's a newsworthy story, that's the first part, or if there's something we can do to help with that, how we can connect it to sort of the bigger picture of our research strategy. And then on results.ncsu.edu, we primarily focus on that external audience, and that has the audience that we focus on there is primarily funding audience, but we also like to speak about interdisciplinary research using that vehicle. So we do also publish early research stories there and stories about awards, etc. But there are a lot of tools, and I spoke about this in my intro, to help you tell your story yourself. So those photos that are available on the Photo Shelter site, there's thousands and thousands of photos that are available to every NC State employee to use. There are those brand rules and assets that you probably want to be aware of as you're creating presentations. Presentations, of course, are an important part to speak to funding audiences and other audiences about the research that you're doing. So there's PowerPoint slide templates available on that website, brand.ncsu.edu. So we have a lot of resources available. There are several photographers available if you need somebody to take photos of your own, of your research or your labs for any purpose. You can reach out to University Communications. They have 2 photographers. We also have our graphic designer does photography. So we have photography available within the Office of Research and Innovation. So there's lots of ways to help you. You can reach out directly to me if you have an idea, and I can connect you with whoever your beat writer is for news, or we can take it on, or I can connect you with your director of communication within your own college.
Great, thank you. I'm actually going to piggyback off of that a little bit and turn to Wade. So we've heard how faculty can get the word out about their research, but what about faculty who have maybe invented a product that has potential for commercial success? Can you give us a little bit about how the journey that faculty might be able to work through in your office to either maybe begin a startup or a new venture?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. This is a this is a complex process. It's very detailed on our website, but we put together a graphic years ago. I think there's probably 12 different phases of different things you need to be aware of if you want to take your research into a startup company. We've been very successful at it at the last few years. NC State's consistently ranked in the top 5 in the country for this, and it is a process. And we have consider our office a machine and a guiding light to accomplish those results. But essentially, under NC State patent policy, this is the policy that everyone signs when we become employees. NC State is the ownership of any intellectual property that's created. There's sometimes confusion between inventorship and ownership. Ownership is the university. Inventorship is who actually had a substantive idea that contributed to the invention. And inventorship is determined by the USPTO, Patent and Trademark Office. So that's something out of our hands. But ownership, that's our office. We serve as the stewards of the IP. And the predominant trend in the US has been a shift away from industry licensing towards research-based startups, largely because of the research we do at a R1 university like NC State. It's just super early. Companies aren't ready to take a license to something typically at the phase of development that we work at NC State. So a startup is a good vehicle for researchers to apply for different types of dollars to basically get that last set of data or that last inflection point that can lead to a commercial success. And the good news for all employees of NC State is we have a very generous patent policy. So if whatever you invent, and if it's commercialized and if it leads to any value in society, 40% of all the dollars that might flow from an invention like that come back directly to the inventors, which is higher than a lot of our peer institutions. So we have a lot of faculty that understand the system, and they do quite well in several of their startups.
Thank you. Yep.
So do you have anything in your office that directly targets postdocs? I feel like every time I interview a postdoc, if they're coming to this area, they really want to take something and carve it off and do a startup. Like that's what they see as their transition out of postdoc, and I just didn't know if that's something that I could do.
We do. Probably the first program would be the National Science Foundation I-Corps program. So this is it's a 4-week program here at NC State. Typically, a postdoc would be the entrepreneurial lead for a team. The idea of that program is to do 20 voice of customer interviews over 4 weeks. And the curriculum nationally is we teach the researcher and the postdoc how to ask open-ended questions to figure out what the market pain point really is. That's kind of step 1. Step 2 is now trying to go after non-dilutive funding. And so SBIR, STTR awards across all federal agencies are really the best technique that you can find. So our program, the SBIR, STTR Spark Plug, is we can actually work with a postdoc and a researcher, and through funding from our office and Keenan Institute, we'll actually pay you to link up with a professional grant writer to get that grant written and get the startup hopefully on the SBIR track. And so postdocs are a big component of what we do.
Are there any concerns with that, kind of like NSF and stuff, with international postdocs? Is that still completely level playing field?
That's an ongoing area of dynamic interest, but we can help you work through those issues. But we have a lot of international postdocs that have been very successful. But depending on where they're from and kind of their visa status, that's something we can help figure out.
Do I see another question from over here? No? Okay. Okay, so we've talked about postdocs, but I actually, I might turn over to talk a little bit about undergraduate research. So Catherine, can you maybe talk to us a little bit about how faculty, we know our faculty love to teach, but they also would like to mentor in many cases. So can you talk to how they can get started mentoring undergraduate research assistants, and then maybe speak a little bit about potential funding support of those research assistants?
Absolutely. So I've been a faculty member. I know that you're torn in a few different directions and that there's a lot of buckets to fill, but I also want to stress the importance of, helping students develop these research skills for whether they're going on to grad school or into the workforce, and that they can be very large contributors to a research project. It doesn't have to just be menial tasks. And so their hand in undergraduate research can look like a variety of things. So kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about whether you would like to work with undergraduate researchers, and if you are someone who is thinking that maybe mentoring undergraduate researchers is not for you, that's also good to know. You don't want to start into that relationship and then recognize that maybe you can't fulfill that for them or be that mentor for them and then have issues down the line. But one of the biggest things is just to communicate with us and to think about how other faculty members perhaps in your area have facilitated those relationships, and then to also just kind of be on our communication lists, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But every year we send out mentor interest forms so that if you don't necessarily have somebody in mind or you don't have somebody that's reached out to you, you can send us a note and say, hey, I'm looking for a researcher, and these are some of the inclusionary and exclusionary criteria that's needed for this project for a researcher. So we have that available. You can update the database. We're currently continuing rolling out a database so that students will have the opportunity to see which researchers are available to be mentors to them, rather than them emailing you and you getting a bunch of emails where you have to say, oh, no, I'm not ready. I don't have space at this time, or potentially ignoring them, which is also not great. So updating that database and taking a look at the students, it's kind of a mixture between like Facebook and LinkedIn almost, where you can say what your specialization areas are and what your foci are and what sort of opportunities you might have available. So if you are on board with having a research assistant who is in FWS, you can say, oh, I've got 3 positions available. Or if you're looking for a few volunteers, or you're looking for someone who can help you with a specific aspect of a project, it's a lot of communication and kind of updating what you might have available in your specific research space. And of course, we have a number of funds available to undergraduate researchers. So if you have something where an undergraduate might be able to be the driver of that project, definitely have them think about an award through us for a variety of things. And we're also here to help support that. So just like you would write a grant, they have to write a proposal for a funding through us. And I get a lot of emails where I get drafts and I provide edits and comments, and we're happy to do that and to support them so that you don't do all of it or you don't feel like you're undertaking this giant reach. So we are here for that. We're here to help students connect. So if you fill out that mentor interest form and you say you have a few spots available, sometimes we'll say, oh, well, we've got 2 students who are interested in this. Let's connect you up. Sometimes they'll reach out to you. Oftentimes that goes through our office in the sense that we're helping with those emails and what to say and how to kind of talk themselves up, how to make sure that you are finding a correct match. And also just be aware that there's different types of mentoring styles and opportunities. So if maybe you're not interested in being a mentor in one capacity, that there are other ways to be involved as a mentor. And finally, I'll just say, keep in mind that research happens in every field. We've had a few faculty members who will tell us, oh, undergraduate researchers, we don't need them because we don't do research, and that's not true. So definitely make sure that you're thinking about what a project might look like and how an undergraduate researcher might have a hand in that, because it can look like a lot of different things, and we are happy to fund and support a lot of different types of research and projects. So really communication is the biggest thing if you're interested in being a mentor. And again, we're here to support both mentors and mentees. So if you are someone who's new to mentoring and you want a little bit of assistance or help, or you just want to come chat with me, we're definitely open for that.
Great. Thank you. So we've heard a lot about different hats that faculty wear, and we know that you're juggling a lot of job duties and tasks. One of the things that I think many faculty, or I've heard many faculty are struggling with, is organizing the large amount of data that they are collecting on a daily or weekly basis. Kim, I might turn to you real quick and ask, I know the libraries offers a couple services and resources for faculty to help organize that data. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. Sure. And I have experts here, colleagues who can also help with that. So there's different ways we can help with your research data. So one would be the planning stage, and then another would be, tapping into resources across campus, and then around data sharing. So in terms of planning, we have online assistance and guides to help with research data across the life cycle, including data management plans, which we can review a draft of your data management plan for you. We also can help with some best practices for storage, organization, and preservation of data over time, and also tips for optimizing that sharing of your data and discovery of the data later. So definitely my colleagues here are really, really wonderful people to talk about that. And then I mentioned the research facilitation service, which again, we're really excited about this group and what they can do. So they're able to help you with, looking at technology options to best meet both your research computing and your data needs, helping you with consultation and support for computational data networking resources, and helping you just think across the whole life cycle of your data from storage through metadata and all these sorts of things. Also, we have a close partnership with the Data Academy now that are actually in the libraries, so that's a great partnership that we have as well. So those are some of the options that we have available, and there's much more that I think my colleagues could speak to as well.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything anybody wants to add first? Not, I know we'll
Anything to
move
say?
to lunch.
Kim did a great job coming out.
Okay.
We have, and feel free to reach out to any of us if you're happy to.
Great, thank you. All right, so with all of that, we know that faculty like to teach, but we do encourage all of you to continue learning as well. So one of the things I want to ask Phil to maybe talk to a bit is some of the events that our Research Leadership Academy and occasionally some of our other research advisory groups help host on campus. Can you talk to maybe some of the past events, maybe some of the topics that have been discussed, and if we have any coming up in the future that our faculty might be interested in joining?
Yeah, absolutely. And picking up on Catherine's comment, what we're really talking about is scholarship. I've had private, government, academic experience, and our primary product is education, but it's not just the teaching, just. Teaching is very important, but teaching and education goes on in many different ways. So for the faculty, we're constantly educating ourselves as well, and the Research Leadership Academy events are meant to help you educate yourself. In particular, the communications with each other about what activities are going on at NC State. Of course, we want to know about things that are impediments or that would be aids to your doing research, so we can pass that on as well. But the university research symposia that are usually held in March every year, again, we partnered on the Equity Research Symposium this year because our big theme this year was the dual aspect of research on diversity and diversity in research, equity in research as well. So it's research culture, and again, thinking more broadly, scholarship. If you're doing instrumental work, like John was talking about, you're doing research. If you're doing development work, support work, extension work, if you are studying data of different sorts from the public sector, or doing scholarly work on information. My son's a history major, and I watched the various things that he has done. So the different events that we put on have ranged pretty widely, from research topics to research culture. So for example, our lunch and learn events, normally about one per month. There's one coming up next month, I think the 5th or so. It's posted on the Research Leadership Academy website, but you get notices. It's about broader impacts. When I worked at NSF, I saw how people struggled with understanding broader impacts. Again, they're societal broader impacts. Transfer to technology. At NSF, it's not developing the technology. As Arden Bement, the former director, said, we don't build bridges or own factories. You know, it's the science of that technology. But the technology is a broader impact that's very important to occur. And then, as I said, the societal aspects of it, of creating diversity, opportunities for diversity, those are all important. Previous university research symposium was on climate research at NC State, the whole breadth of it, not necessarily arguing about extent of how much, but the impacts, what are the natures of climate research and so on. We've had lunch and learns on best practice, well, during the height of the pandemic, how are we coping with COVID? And now we're looking at a lunch and learn on adopting best practices that we've learned from the pandemic that we hadn't considered before. Those are just a few of the things. Plainly, there are opportunities for us to look at in this world capital of analytics, or at least a world capital of analytics, the issue of data and data science is something near and dear to all sorts of departments on the campus. I remembered in graduate school when in my institution, 70% of undergraduates declared they wanted to be in electrical engineering and computer science because their parents said they had to be in computers. The university did a 23-part series, including all but, I guess, the computer science and electrical engineering, which was one department, saying, if you want to work in computers, you should be in technology and policy. You should be in chemical engineering. The point is the breadth of use of those sorts of tools and now of data science cuts across. So events that help shape the research culture and, of course, help the communication. Mentoring is part of what we're doing. So usually with the symposia, we have lightning presentations so people can learn about what each other is doing as well. Frankly, that's as far as the research councils and university research committee and college level committees, a lot of the purpose there is communicating among each other, not just advising other people. And the best way they know what to communicate is if you communicate with those members and with your colleagues to tell what's going on. And that's part of the message of the RLA too.
Great. Thank you. Stretching. So I'm going to break real quick. Does anybody have any questions or any topics you were hoping to hear today? I got to wait 5 seconds. It's my rule for myself. Yep. Opportunities for postdocs, how they can start their own research. Is that what I heard? Okay. Postdocs applying for their own grant, starting their own research.
Well, certainly there are a lot of instances where there are opportunities for postdocs to write federal grants, for example. You know, postdoctoral fellowships are probably the best example of that. And so they provide on the order of 3 years of funding for not only salary, but supplies, et cetera, to get a project going. So that would be a great way to get a foot in the door, certainly if somebody is interested in an academic career.
Yeah, I think postdocs, graduate students as well, they're good examples of people having ideas that they want to, even though they have to have a principal investigator, a faculty member, of writing things. Right now, I'm working with one of my students. She has this work on microwaving polymers to recover monomers from them, circular plastics economy. So we're putting together an NSF proposal together, basically to carry out the research she wants to do. We recognize that PhD students, postdocs alike, are intended to be here not permanently as grad students or postdocs, so that transient has to be developed. But the idea of people developing the research that they would be doing in their graduate studies or postdoc is a powerful thing, and it's an educational opportunity too. I think as John was alluding to, it's really great preparation for the next activities you do, whether it's writing grants to NSF or making a pitch to your boss to tell her what you think you should be doing in your company.
Wade, were you? I thought I saw a hand, so I just want to make sure I didn't cut you off. Does that answer your question, or at least give you somewhere to turn? Did I have another question in the back? Nope. Okay. Well, we have a couple more minutes, and again, stop me at any time if you think of something or something comes up as we're discussing. But maybe I'll turn. So all of us need funding, right? Whether it is for our students or ourselves. So John, I might ask you to talk a little bit about, you gave a little overview of our internal funding page, but can you talk a little bit about how faculty can be successful submitting proposals for our internal funding opportunities or being awarded those opportunities?
Sure. This question came up, I believe, yesterday, and Emily Callahan answered it, I thought, very well. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to read and assimilate what an RFP says. Read it 10 times. Convince yourself of what it's trying to say, and then respond. We find even for internal programs very often that proposals will come in which are really not well aligned with the intention of the program, or something is proposed and for whatever reason that particular program does not fund that particular type of activity, whether it might be a graduate student stipend or travel or whatever. So just be very diligent about understanding the intent of the program and the language that it uses in offering this funding to you. So I'd say that's the biggest tip I would provide.
If I could add something to that too, talking to your colleagues about the different programs too, particularly with federal agencies, different agencies really have different models of how awards are worked out. And DOD, for example, and DOE, the program officer, really builds a stable of people that they want working in their program compared to NSF, NIH, that tend to much more be looking at the merits of a particular proposal that comes in and building a body of work rather than a set of awardees. So, and it's your colleagues, well, the program officers will actually be pretty frank, so you don't be afraid to contact the program officers as well. But again, talk to your colleagues for advice about these sorts of things. If you plan to put in a proposal to this or that organization, you can find through NC State Resources people who've had support from that entity, and they can give you good insight about how the programs actually operate.
Good advice. Thank you. So I'm going to piggyback on this funding topic and maybe turn to Kim real quick to talk about, you mentioned some services, but could you talk maybe a little bit about the most popular services possibly offered by the libraries that relate to grants and funding for faculty?
Sure. It's a great way to connect these questions together. So one of them is helping you with your biosketch that you have to create for NIH and NSF grants. So there's the SciNCV process that you have to go through, and it connects with your ORCID ID. And the library has also what's called a citation index, so we have a way that all those things can connect together. And in fact, Hillary and Bertha, my colleagues here that are right here, they're going to be working with NSF career. It's the career. What's the program called tomorrow?
Tomorrow is the NSF Career Board Workshop, and it'll be 1 o'clock.
So they're going to be going over like how you can use these tools together to help you with that part of your grant application process. Also, we have some open access agreements that we wanted to make sure people know about. We're pretty excited about this. We have several open access agreements where, these allow researchers to make their work available for everybody to read for free without having to pay open access fees. And this really helps to increase the impact of NC State's research. And we just started 3 new OA agreements just the beginning of this year with Wiley, Cambridge University Press, and the Royal Society, and there'll be more to come. And if you're interested in any of that, Hillary and Bertha would be wonderful people to talk to at the networking lunch about that. Also, we mentioned that we can help with the data management plan process and help to review your plan with you. We have a tool that you can go through, and we will assist you with that. And then getting at the broader impacts, that whole issue of how do you create a statement that really helps you think about how do you explain how your research is going to have this broader impact. That's something we've been thinking about as well. We have a guide through the library where we try to help you understand how to create a good broader impact statement. Also, the library can be a venue for helping to create those moments of connection with public audiences. We have popular programs like our Coffee and Viz visualization series that we do, where folks come and talk about visualization projects that they're doing across all different disciplines. And we also we have these amazing visualization spaces in both DH Hill Library and the Hunt Library. So we have have infrastructure, and we have people that can help you with how could you create events in spaces like that could be part of your broader impact. Also, we help with open research. We're really interested in making information open, and there's lots of different ways that we can help with that, from helping you with reproducibility, with open book publishing, with interactive publications, with advising on new forms of research output, and also how to share your data openly. And we have access to Dryad as a repository of your data, but there are also different kinds of disciplinary repositories that we're aware of. So all of that are pieces that can go into your grant process as you're looking for grants and funding, because we have all of that to offer, and much more. Yeah. Yeah.
So this all sounds really awesome. Do y'all interact much with like the college level pre-awards? Because I just put in a NIFA grant, and I was working with them for like 2 months ahead of time. And I would love to have known about any of those resources, because having put that all together, like a data management plan and your bio sketch, getting all that together for the first time, I would love to know about.
I'm going to defer to Hillary. Do you have anything to say on that? I mean, I'm pretty new to the libraries in this capacity, and so I don't really know some of the historic parts. So I'm going to learn too.
I would say there's not like a super formal chain of communication, but we work with various folks in the colleges in research support. And yes, you would have benefited probably from knowing about the support earlier on. We'll make sure we do some more outreach with those folks, make sure that they know that we have these services.
So thanks for that feedback so that we can make those connections too.
Yeah. Communications are hard across the university. We are very decentralized, but we have a lot of representation and partner units, and we're having a lot of connections across research and innovation. I mean, we have a lot of representation here, right, that are not central to our office, and it just shows you we're just trying to keep connections going. Phil talked to some of the research advisory groups we have just to try to stay connected to the colleges, but again, we still need to hear from you, right, as the faculty, and so we appreciate any feedback and help in the communications across. So we only have a couple of minutes, and I might just ask a couple of you to talk about some exciting opportunities. There were some things mentioned from the libraries, but Vicki, one of my favorite things that happens every year is the Envisioning Research Contest, because I love photography. So you talked a little bit about this earlier, but this is kind of a neat, just a simple submission for faculty or students that you're mentoring. Could you talk about not only the submission process, but, essentially what that does for our community?
Yeah. So we have an annual contest called Envisioning Research, and it's includes nanophotography, illustration photography, or graphics, or short videos under 3 minutes that are created in the course of creating research, and it helps to connect and showcase the beauty of research and connect general audiences to the work that we do here. So this, there are separate prizes for this contest. This is a prize contest for undergraduate students, graduate students, and faculty and staff. And I mentioned each one of those categories, and the top prize in each category is $250, and then there's a second place prize of $100 in each category. It's a joint effort between our office, University Communications, the grad school, undergraduate research, and NC State Libraries. And it's a really great contest. It comes out with wonderful content that we can use to promote research at NC State. You can see all of these great past winners on the website and galleries linked on the Envisioning Research website. This is open for submissions through June 19th. And is judged in August and announced at the end of August every year. It's a great competition. We get better and better entries every single year, and I'm excited to be a part of that. It's really fun to judge too.
And then Vicky's created some great backgrounds, or the University Communications.
We have some
created
Zoom backgrounds if you're still Zooming, and I know a lot of us are. There are some Envisioning Research Zoom backgrounds that you can download from that Envisioning Research website too. So if you want an attractive NC State Zoom background that is research related, that's a great place to look for those.
I might ask just the panel if anybody has any last minute thoughts before we move between here and lunch. Does anybody have any additional items they want to mention, thoughts for our faculty as they're beginning their journey here? And we don't have to go in a row, so Wade, yep, please
Just
start.
in the interest, I know we have 2 minutes, but
Yep.
a lot of tools and resources here about publishing research. Just be aware that there's also intellectual property concerns when you publish a paper. So you can stand to lose some of your intellectual property benefits if you publish without contacting our office first. Part of what we will try to help you do is determine, is there something substantial, some innovation or invention in your research that needs to be protected? If so, we need to protect it before you publish. So please contact us if you think that you have something like that. We'd be happy to walk through it with you.
Great addition, yeah. Phil?
And I would certainly emphasize probably the most important thing is to participate. You've got to focus on your own scholarship. You've got to do that. But for you, for the students that are working with you, the postdocs that are working with you, you need to communicate those ideas to each other. There's such incredible opportunities across this campus to work across departments, across colleges, even within your own departments. My own department found we had a burst of collaborations when we had a lunchtime faculty-to-faculty meeting where 30 minutes each faculty member was talking about the greatest things that they were working on, wanting to communicate, participate.
Yeah, great. That's a great idea. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm just going to end the panel by saying, reach out to us. We're here for you. And if you don't know where to turn, we have a very generic email address for the Office of Research and Innovation. It's ncstate-research@ncsu.edu. We'll get you connected with who you need to see. So if you don't know where to turn, reach out to us. You've made a bunch of connections here on the panel. We hope you continue to do so as we move to lunch. But never forget that we're a great resource for you just to reach out to if you have any questions. Now, before we do move from here next door, I want to ask our Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation, Dr. Volk. He just wants to say a couple words before we move over. I hope to meet a lot of you in person over in our space next door. And thank you all for joining us today. And maybe a big round of applause for our panelists for being here today. Thank you all for your time. I really do appreciate it. Dr. Volk.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning and welcome. I'm really pleased to welcome everyone who's come here in person, both new faculty and staff. It is really good to see you in person after all this time that we have been sequestered at home. And all I can say is that it's wonderful that you are here and that you have come to NC State, and you should avail yourself of the acceleration tools that were presented to you today. Things like the libraries and the tools there, academies, and core facilities, and so on, because we do want to make you very successful. And in order to do that, we would like to help you with what you need. So do not hesitate. Again, thank you for being here. Do network over the next lunch or this lunch, and do not hesitate to get in touch with us. So thank you.